And we are live. Hi, everyone. Oh, my goodness. I think this is probably our first show for the year. I think I might be mistaken, but hi, everyone. Welcome to the Moms, the number four Trans Kids podcast. Me llamo Doctora Lulu, and I am here today with an amazing guest. For those of you who know me, you know I talk about my work in the advocacy space and the three angles that I cover. One of them are parents, the other one are queer youth, and the third one are physicians and medical healthcare providers like me. And today we have a bona fide ally in white coats. My next book, as you all know, is titled Allies in White Coats Becoming the Physician Your Queer Child, Queer Patient Needs. So today we have one of us in attendance. So excited, Dr. Colt. I don't even know when we met, how we got here, but we're here today. Welcome, my friend. How are you?
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm exhausted, but also overjoyed to have this time to connect with you. And I appreciate you using your platform for the good of the world and our people and our hearts and spirits. I am, like you said, a physician. So I'm a family doctor, and also I am a child psychologist. So I got my PhD first, and then I'm openly transgender during my PhD. Graduate school came out and transitioned how many years ago, whenever 2006 was, and realized, my community needs both behavioral health care and understanding medical care, but especially primary care. Just, I have a sneeze, I have something going on, my elbow hurts, and I need somebody to not just freak out because I'm trans. So I went to medical school after that, and here we are.
Wow, you just came out like a bolt out of the blue. So you're trans, you're openly trans, but aren't you also two spirit?
That's right. Yes. My mentor is Kelly Blair, and they give greetings. They are on the land known as Oklahoma, and are Cherokee, Choctaw, and Seminole. And we believe my family's tracings are through Choctaw. We're still working to find that out. But in that way, I've been brought into the fold of Two Spirits. So I am also known as Two Spirit.
Wow, congratulations on just finding all of your queer identities. I don't know if you know this about me, but there's Ellen. Hey, Ellen. Hey, girl. Hey. So, Ellen is the second Mama Beast reporting for duty. Hey, Ellen. Happy New Year. There is a background noise. I'm not sure.
Should I leave out and come back in? It's weird. It's the first
Yeah, maybe.
time that's ever happened.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, I'll leave out and come back in.
Okay. And for those of you who do not know that the show is shot live, you just saw that happen. It is shot live. There's no doctoring. This is real. We are here. We're not mincing words. We're Mama Beasts. And as y'all know, we don't give a fuck, especially when we have somebody coming for our kids, making declarations like your child being transgender is an anti-American. I mean, I am writing an article right now for Business Insider about that. Because, I mean, hello, it's just such a huge declaration and such a stab on my uterus and my breast that's suckled this child, and just how on earth my kid is an introvert doesn't say a word. If you say 10 words, they're just going to nod and maybe look in your way, in your direction. But coming and saying, declaring war basically against children and their families and their parents, by extension, it just breaks my heart. And today we have Dr. Colt to help us make some sense of some of it, being that you are also in the transgender world as well as two spirits. I mean, that's just amazing. Now, what luck. I don't think we've had anyone with that. That's a triple threat as far as I'm concerned. We've never had anyone. Yo, Ellen, have we had anyone with that triple threat?
I don't think so.
No.
I mean, us
Trans.
combined is only a double threat.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And so now we're like quintupled. I mean, being trans, being a physician, psychologist, and then being two spirit, that's actually quadruple. So thank you for saying yes. Thank you for saying yes to coming on the show. Thank you for saying yes to sharing space with us. And I know your heart is heavy. I can only imagine, but somehow you've been able to find and harness your trans and two spirit joy. So the mic is yours. Tell us, how did you come about, and how did you, decide to resist, because that's what you're doing. Your existence is a resistance at this point.
Mhm.
That's right. That's right. I'm originally from the South. I grew up as an only child in Texas, and I survived Catholic schools K through 12. A lot of my personal work and spiritual journey has kind of done a lot of work reconciling spirituality, sexuality, gender, and realizing that the core of me is good and sacred, even if I was told something different.
Mhm.
Mm.
And so, because I received incredible support, my story is not usual. So, both of my parents, it took them a little bit, but not a lot, to kind of get on board. I came out first as queer and then as trans. My mother is a gynecologist in a small town in Texas. She was one of the first women to open a business there, and she understands a lot of sexism and kind of those experiences. So she was able to bring that to her understanding. And my dad is a psychologist, and so he was able to bring a lot of that knowledge. So my parents, were equipped with knowledge and resources that most parents aren't. And
Mhm.
so when I came out, so my early 20s, I'm in my 40s now, they really stepped up to the plate and they said, "You are our child. We don't really understand any of this, but we know you, and we know you are good, and you are always our child. You are always our
Mhm.
family, and we will find resources. We will do the work, and we will get through this together." And I
Mhm.
feel like because of that
Mhm.
foundational support, love, just like trusting that they know me, because they know me better than anyone else. They're my parents. They've known me, since I was born. They're my biological parents. And so I think that was one really critical piece to my ability to be alive and thriving and resisting these days. And then also something that almost never happens. So as I told you, I survived K through 12 Catholic schools. There's a lot of pieces of Catholicism that resonate with my soul: the art, the smells, the senses, the saints, the Mary, the engagement. There's a lot of pieces that resonate at a deep level for me. Transubstantiation, things that just have always resonated with me. And so I was very present. Every week I was doing altar serving. I was, very much a part of the church. And so the priest that was there literally saw me grow up. Father Menger is his name. He passed away, I believe, in the last couple of years. But when I came out, I had moved to college, so I was away from that town. But I sent him a letter, and just kind of let him know, like, look, I just want to let you know I have to do this. I am transgender, and I need to be me, and I don't see it as a conflict. And he wrote me back this letter. I have to find it somewhere, but he said, "You know what? I've never thought very much about your gender, but clearly you have, and clearly this is something you must do. You are always welcome here."
Mhm.
Like, where are you going to hear that? Like, who's got that story?
Mhm.
I have
Mhm.
never, and I was raised Catholic. I was born, bred, buttered, and slightly burned in the Catholic Church, and so I definitely never thought I would ever hear a priest say that. Now that said, when I was going through my first divorce, my Catholic, I think he was a canon. He said something similar to me. He said, I said, I don't think I can stay in this marriage. I know there's this whole thing about God abhors divorce and Catholicism and divorce. He said, while Jesus sanctions a marriage, Jesus does not sanction an unhappy marriage, something like that, and said, do what your heart wants you to do, something like that. And I was so thankful. And everyone's like, wait,
Mhm.
what? And I was like, yes, every now and again, you get someone who gets it. Now, before you go any further, I want to give a shout out to all the folks watching us on LinkedIn, on Instagram. A bunch of y'all have tuned in. And one of them is Trans Proud MD. who says, Dr. Colt, two of the coolest trans advocates together, and gives us a lot of hearts. Thank you all so much for joining us. If you have any questions, any comments, anything that comes up to for you as we have this conversation today, please just feel free to ask us. We're here for you. This is your podcast. We're just hosting. So I have Bill L.A. Current, Faisal, Othman, Rizum, Okwi Okrika, Berry Be My Joy Friend, Flower Rock. Flower Rock says awesome. Flower Rock is a two-spirit transgender person that everybody needs to meet. Joey, hey, and just a bunch of people. So yeah, we're here for y'all. If you have any questions, any concerns, please let us know. We're happy to write the questions down and share them with the world. But yeah, so go ahead. Ellen, do you have any? I know Ellen was most excited when I shared your bio and
Oh,
told her,
so
yeah.
excited.
So Ellen,
Yes,
what do you want
so
to say to
excited.
Dr.
You
Cole?
know, and of course, we both have trans kids, and I listening to you talk about embracing the duality of who you are. Um, I find that in unfortunately my son is found in occasional space that people want to put him in this box of, well, you said you're trans male, so then that's just it. And so there's this disregard of him being proud, of him embracing still very much of his feminine sides, qualities, who he grew up with as himself initially. Um, for people from the queer community, who has said, well, but you're a trans male now, so you can't be in this space anymore. And
Mm,
my rebuttal to that, or my argument to that was, well, you can't embrace the part of trans people that fits your agenda. When
mm.
he becomes a parent, or he decides that he wants to carry a child, you then can celebrate that and say, "Oh, look at the trans male. They can carry children too." Like, you can't not understand and respect this movement of the whole person. I'm an educator, so we believe in addressing the whole child,
Yes.
um, and not just picking out pieces that fit to our agenda within the educational system. So just you speaking to that is just so powerful, and it's just a reminder to people, our viewers, our listeners. It's a reminder that there is how people choose to show up is how the only way that you need to respect that. Like, you don't need to dummy it down or try to figure out, like, okay, but just respect how they show up. And it may not look uh, from a societal standpoint as to how maybe you've been programmed to receive it. You just have to respect it. And if they're loving individuals and human beings first, we won't have half of these problems. I tell people this all the time. If you can respect the person that's standing in front of you as a human being, half of these things would not be an issue. So I just really appreciate you speaking to that, because that kind of is the dynamics of people still pigeonholing trans people, queer people, uh, people who understand their own duality, uh, putting them in this box still. You were in the heteronormative spaces in this box. So I appreciate you really touching upon that and tying that into the religion piece. Although, Dr. Colt, your story is very rare
It
Yeah,
is. It is.
yeah,
from a religious standpoint.
yeah,
So, but thank goodness you um, had that support that would uh, be a movement for you to find your professional passion and your purpose, and now serving others in the community. So,
Exactly. Thank you so much, Ellen, for bringing that up. And what that's bringing on my spirit, on my heart to talk about is all of us are in this space, in this world, that wants to put limitations on us.
Mhm.
The sooner somebody knows a demographic piece of information on us, the sooner it's like, oh, we got to limit that. So when
Mhm.
somebody says, is it a boy or a girl? All of a sudden, we're going to limit what kind of dreams we have, what kind of imaginations we have for that person. We limit our potential, our possibility, our liberation. As people. And what I find a lot, even within queer spaces, right, is this idea of assimilation over authenticity. What do I mean by that? Well, if you're going to be a man, then therefore you need to be a man the
Yeah,
way I
man.
should be a man. That means
Mhm.
assimilate instead of what does it mean to you to be a man? What is your authentic self? And what a transition or a transgender journey or a revelation of self is supposed to be is to be ever more opening, ever more opening of possibilities, not closing of possibilities. And so the societal reaction to us, because we are doing something in a new way, is to quickly put a limit on it. But
Mhm.
the issue is, it's actually a personal thing that they have put that limit on themselves, and
Themselves.
they're going to.
Hmm.
So each of us has to be
Mhm.
liberated, but to stop oppressing others,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
I
Yeah.
love
Yeah.
that. That is so
Yeah.
true. In
Like
other
I
words,
think there's a. Oh, go ahead,
one of
Dr.
the things, yeah,
Sorry.
I was just going to say, in other words, one of the things that people, all of us, because I know I am probably guilty of this, one of the things that we do is we forget that when we put a limit on someone, we're actually also putting a limit on ours. Case in point, on ourselves. When I was going to join the Air Force many, many moons ago, I had, at the same time, I had a job offer in Perth, Australia. And I really wanted to go to Perth. I really, really wanted to go to Perth. I love traveling to exotic places. And my mom was like, wait, Perth, Australia, who do you know over there? Da, 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 How are we going to come visit you? Well, there's such and such and such. And I was like, well, I guess, yeah, okay, I'll just join the Air Force. Not that there's anything wrong with joining the Air Force because I now ended up having a whole new world of experiences there. But I allowed my mother's fears of Perth,
Mm,
Australia,
mm.
and today I'm where I am. And I don't know where I was going with that, but I don't know where I was going with that, but that's what that reminded me of. Just the way we limit when somebody's vision is limited,
Hmm.
and you listen to that vision, then it limits your own. And so again, for those people who are queer, who feel safe enough to declare their queerness, I want to just give y'all kudos, because I know that there's an avalanche of people
Yeah.
out there now looking for
Yeah.
reasons to come
Yeah.
for you. Like the T-shirt that you have on says "transsexual menace." I mean, that's a resistance quote right there. That's so
It's
beautiful.
it. It's giving me very much Rocky Horror Picture
Yeah,
Show.
well, there you go.
Yes, you should
uh,
definitely look up Denise, one of our elders, Granny Tranny. I refer to her as. She was one of the founders of the Transsexual Menace, who
mhm.
are a resistance movement that started back in
Mhm.
the day with Stonewall, kind of coming out of that and making sure that people would know we would always be around. And they're calling us a menace anyway, so might as well
Might
put
as
it on
well
the shirt.
play into it.
Might as well use it to our advantage and get that attention to where these conversations happen. I mean, I think oftentimes too, every occasional people say, "Oh, your child wants to, is trying to be a man," and I said, "No, he's trying to be Nico."
Yes,
So, but that takes a lot of reprogramming, and even for myself, and I try to share this with people as well. Um, we were all programmed into a society of only understanding one gender and the other. And so there was a lot of reprogramming, reframing my own thinking, as my son's parent, to um, really embrace that and use that component in educating as well. People see us now and they're like, "Oh my God, this seems like it's so easy and you just got it all down." And I'm like,
that took
the
work.
hell, the hell if we do, I do. I don't. Let me start there. I'm learning stuff every day. I'm
Mm.
reading, studying, educating, talking, having conversations with people every day. I don't know none of this. Um, but the bigger component is that, like your parents, Dr. Cote, my child is my child, and so there's a non-negotiable on how I'm going to love him. It's I know that part I know. I always tell Dr. Lulu, the deal breaker is not him coming out as trans. That ain't the deal breaker. Now, if you stealing stuff from me, that might be, but but
Dr. Colt,
not being yourself is not the deal breaker.
yeah. Dr. Colt, I do want to, before we went live, we were talking about you and your queer joy in the face of an
Mm,
American president who is
Mm,
arguably, in today's world, people look at the president of the United States of America as arguably the most powerful person, so to say, where power is concerned. How are you navigating the most powerful person, in quotes, coming for, relatively speaking, the weakest person, which is a child who is exploring their gender identity, especially being that gender identity exploration is actually a normal physiologic thing in
mhm,
children. It is normal for boys who are cisgender to want to play with girl toys until their father says, "Stop, get out of there, don't ever do that." So, how are you, as a physician and a psychologist, how are you navigating it for yourself first? And also, how are you helping your patients navigate? What
mhm.
words do you have for those parents who right now are just like, oh my God, it's the end of the world? What do you have to say to them?
oh, thank you for asking that question, Dr. Lulu. There's so much to this. I think first things first, when you're asking about me personally, how in the world I'm navigating all this, and it's number one, not alone. No one can do this.
Mm,
I've been spending
mhm,
years cultivating relationships with folks across Turtle Island, across the globe, and building allegiances. Who are the people I can trust with my medical license? Who are the people
mm,
I can call? So just really building trusting relationships, I think, has been huge, and really
Mhm.
creating family in a very queer way. So my partner and I, we have struggled with infertility. They got sperm, I got eggs, and it's just, I'm 41, so my eggs are kind of fried. But we've spent so many resources and so much on building kind of biological family, but at the same time, in the parallel, we're building our chosen family. And so having our chosen family, our fur babies, so we have two cats, two dogs, as well as sort of like a son slash nephew, um,
mhm,
and several other folks that we have Sunday dinners together, we have family time, we really connect, and we make sure that we play. We have to have
mm,
space for play, because one of the biggest things they're coming after is a child's ability to play,
mhm,
to dream, to imagine.
mhm,
And what I see as most important for our children is that they get connected with their elders, that they get connected with those of us who have been through this and survived and so that we can pass along our resilience skills. So, for example, the first Transgender Day of Remembrance I went to, um, an elder was speaking. She has since passed. She's an openly trans woman, and she was Black. And she talked about growing up in a Black family. She said, when I would come home from school and somebody called me a racial slur, I would get love, support. This is how we dealt with it. I'm going to the school myself, like, kind of, let's figure this out. But when I came home because somebody called me an FAG because I had my purse on that day, my parents said, well, that's your fault. Why are you doing this?
mhm,
And so
mhm,
figuring out how do we bring these kids into the fold where we have these grown-ups that can help educate our cis parents who are doing their damnedest to raise a kid who's not cis. And there's been a big divide, I think, between trans adult community and trans youth community, and that is not good. We need each other, especially in these moments. And so I think, what am I doing to take care of myself is building this community, being very loud about, hey, it's time to, like, let's get all together, building movements, building conferences, all sorts of things to get us all in the same space so that our sacred magic kind of gets seen and recycled and just goes and goes. So that's for me. And then for others, well, that's sort of for me and others, right? So part of the work of being a two-spirit person and thinking about two-spirit medicine in addition to Western medicine is you think of a medicine wheel that has four pieces, and we think about embodiment. So how do we embody who we want to be in our mind, body, in our spirit, and in community? So a lot of times, especially in kind of more individualistic societies, we think about mind, body, spirit, but in more collective societies, we add that community piece as well.
Mm-hmm.
So in
Mm-hmm.
terms of my work with others when they come into my office, yes, I'm their family doc and I provide holistic care, and we start with embodiment. What is it that
Mm-hmm.
you need for support for your embodiment of your truest version of self? What does that look like for your mind, for your body, for your spirit and community? And I'm really highlighting making sure I'm connecting folks with community so that they can be in community in the way that honors who they know that they're supposed to be.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you are comfortable in disclosing this. What state are you in, or what area of the country are you in?
Not going to
Yeah,
be able to
we
say that.
Okay.
we talked about that before you got on, sis. We said in the
Okay.
interest of just what's
Yeah.
happening now, yes, to
No,
not
totally,
do
totally
that.
makes
But yeah,
sense.
that
You
was
know,
the only, yeah. It's funny
I
you
could,
asked that question because
I
that was
could
the
tell
only
you
thing
because,
that he said he wasn't going to talk about. That yeah, that was the
yeah,
yeah.
What I
totally
can say
respect that.
is what I can say is I'm not home. Home is Texas.
Okay.
And
Okay.
I'm told that it would not be safe for me to set foot in my home state. So I'm not there.
Yeah.
And that is
Yeah.
a whole that's a whole conversation in itself, a very
Mm-hmm.
sobering conversation for anybody to feel like they can't go. It's almost like you're on exile for
Yeah.
being who you are. That is very, I almost want to take just a moment to let that sink in for all of us listening. How painful any one of us who's listening out there who's cisgender, you just take it
Mm-hmm.
for granted. Oh, I want to go home. And you just go. And here's someone who did not commit a crime, who didn't do anything wrong. All they did was put on a pair of pants and get a haircut or whatever and just living authentically, and they cannot
Mm-hmm.
go home. I don't know if anybody who's listening to us can take a moment and just reflect on how that would feel for you if truly this was you or this was your child, how that would be for you, all because you are you.
And that's
Yeah.
such a common experience of folks who have immigrated to this country. So I think it's so important, to name that our struggles are so interlinked.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I feel like, I'm from the Midwest, and I feel like I definitely have. And I have migrated to California. I knew that my truest self of being a queer woman would be here. And so I was lucky enough to do it, post college. But, um, there's things that I share in that feeling that you have where I would never take my son to certain states, or, be comfortable, if you will, um, for him to be rooted as a trans person in many states. And so, our options, we feel, are very limited here in the United States. Um, and that's unfortunate because trans people, um, people who understand their duality, masculine and feminine duality, have been here since the beginning of time. So for us to be in this space of where we are strangers or outcasts or in society is just, again, it kind of funnels back into this heteronormative of this is what it's supposed to be and this is what it's going to be, and that's it. So
And this is 2025. You would think the world would have evolved way past this now. And thank you, Dr. Colt, for talking about people who have emigrated. As an immigrant myself from a
mhm,
foreign country, while I'm not here as an asylum seeker, what the people who came here as a land of the brave and the land of the free and the land flowing with milk and honey came from their own countries where they were being persecuted, like maybe Kenya or even Nigeria, where I was born, who came here because they thought, okay, this will be, they will get some kind of respite here.
Mhm.
Now they can't go back to their countries because they are being hunted, HU, and haunted, HAU, like wild animals. And then now suddenly they can't get a job. I mean, it's like, what I hope people can see how why we always say the mental health of the queer person is not because they are queer, but because of the way society treats them. I hope people can maybe hear this. This is playing out today. In only 2 weeks, only been in office for 2 weeks, the kind of heartache that this person has created. And obviously he's not alone. He's not alone. But I want to just kind of piggyback on what you said. So the five things that I got from that, for those of you who are listening or who are just joining us, Dr. Colt is saying five things to hopefully weather this storm is: number one, you're not alone. So
Mm.
looking for other people like you, that is number one. Number two, allowing your child to explore play, because really that's all kids want to do all day is play until we say don't do. We're the ones that usually begin with the no. And then to allow your child to connect with you. So you mentioned something about connection, allowing your child to connect with you. However, whatever that means to your child and to you, allow them to find connections with you, connections with themselves, connections with other people. And obviously, as the parents, being their support system. I always say the parents are the most important, but also the most influential people in their
Yes.
kids' life. And then lastly, expanding towards, to community, finding community. For those of us who are out there right now feeling helpless, the helplessness is what they want you to feel, but you have it within you to fight back. You have to fight back. Even if you didn't think you needed to fight back before, it's time to fight back, because your child does not know the legislators, but your child knows you. And if you come with this defeated energy, then what do you want your child to do?
Hmm.
So,
My
Yeah.
dad always says these kids are cheerleaders. We have to be their biggest supporters. And that has saved my life time and time again. Just knowing that my parents will show up for me, will fight from there in their 70s and they're still showing up. They're still talking to people, and they started a little P flag, and where they moved to, and that just fills me so much. And so even though I'm an adult, I'm still their child. I'll always be their child. And just having that knowing, right, that foundation is it. I wake up in the morning and I breathe.
what a blessing. What a blessing to have parents who are radicals and actually activists at this
Yeah.
point for
And
their
they're
child.
Texan Catholics. Like, come on, if they can do it, like, come on, y'all.
Nobody else can do it.
Yeah.
So the show is called Moms, the number four trans kids. We are Mama Beasts and we don't give a fuck no matter who you think you are. We're here for our kids. We will defend our kids with our last breaths. The show comes live every Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for now until the time changes sometime this year to 7 p.m. again. Ellen and I hold space as much as possible when we have guests, because both of us have been gifted transgender children, and we know nothing else but to support our kids. And today we're being joined by Dr. Colt, who happens to be a physician and a psychologist. And I could tell, Dr. Colt, you like to read, you like to study, because who gets a PhD and then goes back to medical school? Dr. Colt does. So as we make it when we make a turn into the second half of the show, we want to see if anybody has any questions, any concerns, any
Mm,
comments.
mm.
Please share them with us as we move into the second half of the show. Dr. Cole, my question for you at this point is: you mentioned something about infertility. I really want to center the fact that, first of all, you have a spouse, because one of the things that parents who have gay kids, queer kids, the first thing you can't find a partner, you can't get married, you can't, and then of course subsequently you can't have children.
You
Can you
can't
tell us a bit
procreate.
more about, yes, can you tell us a little bit more about finding the love of your life, and then this struggle which heterosexual couples also experience, just by the way.
Yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely. When I'm working with families, like exactly the same things come up. Who's going to love my child? Who's going to hurt my child? Can
Mm,
I get can I get grandbabies? And what I always say is like, that's how I want you to be thinking as parents. And the kids, sometimes they'll feel that as like a lack of support, like, why are you scared of this, mom? Those kind of things. But I try to help the kid understand, no, this is what a loving parent does, is worry. Who's going to love my kid? Who's going to hurt my kid? Who's going to be there for my kiddo? And so I always kind of reinforce, like, this is good. We can work from here. You're a good parent. You're trying your best. And so I have a really like a lovely love story. Kind of later in life, I had been married and with somebody for about 10 years, and then that had ended, and I was in this, same place. Who's going to love me? Will they hurt me? Will they think, that I'm not a normal man? Will they think I'm damaged goods? Things that people, I think trans are not, kind of think about, And C, like the ocean, per and they pronouns. C is somebody I've known. They're a retired psychologist, and I met them through my work as a psychologist. Actually, we wrote this little feedback sheet, or fact sheet, I think it was called, for American Psychological Association on transgender children back in 2014. So you can probably find that. I'll send it somewhere. But so we had been in touch mainly just via email, working on different projects as psychologists, wanting to take care of trans youth and queer youth just in general. We had lived many, many states away. And then C is, if people know C, you will know that they have the biggest heart, and they are always checking in. Like friend, if you look up friend in the dictionary, like C is the definition of true friend. And so like twice a year, they'd text me or call me out of nowhere, even if we hadn't talked in forever. And so it was almost a year after my divorce, and I hadn't even been thinking about dating. I was going to residency to, like, you don't really think about much except surviving that. And they called, and we had this 2-hour beautiful conversation. And I was just so opened and moved, because I was so closed to thinking about even being with somebody anymore. I was like, oof, doesn't work for me, blah, blah, blah. But I was just like, can I flirt with you? Which I had been out of the game for 10 years, y'all. I don't know how to do these things, but they're just so sweet and
And I'm
loving.
a Pisces, so I'm a romantic to the core. I'm here for the love stories. Yes.
And I am just here for the blushing.
Yes.
There's more. Like,
this is queer
y'all,
joy,
like,
y'all. This is trans freaking joy, y'all. This is it. This is the definition of queer
It's
joy.
just like, I'm like, oh my God, I'm like
Yes.
a person.
Yes.
Just, y'all, the way that they love is so big and so just precious. And they said yes, and that they'd had a crush on me for over a decade.
Oh, wow.
And that's like, oh, it's like, wow.
Talk about alignment. Yes.
It was definitely destined. And it was during COVID. And so I was like, I'm going to come on a plane as soon as I can get on the plane. Like, I got to, we were many, many hours apart. And so we would visit about once a month. And then they eventually moved in. We got married, and, now they moved with me to where we had to move the clinic so we could be safe. And kind of have really just joined in the work, because they've always been here for the kids and here for our community. I could just name that they do so much. They're checking in on everybody. They're making sure everybody's got resources. They are, we're working on a suicide prevention grant. They're making sure that we have the right connections. They belong to the AFSP, American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. So they're connecting us there. They're getting their master's in divinity for UU. So they are kind of working on the spirit part of things as well. I feel so lucky. And we've been wanting to have kids. They're 43, I'm 41. So we're like, all right. Several years ago, we're like, it's now or never. So gosh, the amount of debt that we have for infertility treatments, y'all, people are like, you got 2 doctorates and like, you have all this money. I'm like, can I have it? Because like whatever you're imagining for me, like that would be great. But the medical debt, y'all, is ridiculous. So we tried to get pregnant for me, and we had to do IVF for, their intersex condition and just a little way that our bodies work. And so we tried we lost track of times. I think 6 or 7 times to take eggs out of me and then to get me pregnant. And I was pregnant one time for a few weeks, and 1 positive pregnancy test. And so we've been through a lot, and their parents are not supportive of our relationship. They don't talk
Mm,
to me. And so that's been a source of real struggle and pain, but also
mm.
real healing for me to see as my parents have really stepped in. And my mom, when I dated folks before, she used to tell them, "Don't you break his heart. You know, I'll come after you." Mama comes after me now. "Don't you break his heart. This is the best one."
Right. And there's something to say about, it definitely is so heartbreaking and disappointing when you have family that does not, you spoke to, if anyone knows you better than you, it's, the people that have raised you. And to not, to, to not see them extend that love beyond what their comfort zone is so heartbreaking. It's so disappointing. And you know I think we've all experienced that. I have. Um and you get to a place of where you're just like, you know what, a lot of therapy first, to get past that disappointment. But you get to a place of, you know what, you lived your life and your life is the way that you wanted to live it. And in order for me to be healthy and bringing this inner joy, I'm going to live it how I know that brings me a level of happiness. And if you're not around for it, it's kind of
That's
on
right.
you.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
when we do have grandbabies, they don't get to know them. And that's
That's
on them.
right. That
Yeah.
is right.
And talking
That's
about
right.
grandbabies, there's a twist. I think the plot thickens because isn't there like some good news about adopted children somewhere in the picture?
So that's what we're doing, right? We're building our chosen family. And so that is, Jack is one to us. And many of y'all who are listening, I'm pretty sure you might consider me your grandpa or your uncle in some sort of a
I love
way.
it. Your grandpa. I love
And
it.
every child that comes to my office that I get to take care of brings, like, fills that desire for me and that drive.
Mhm.
I do believe that I'm a great protector of children, even though I'm sure one day it'll say that I'm some sort of pervert or like
Yeah.
sex with children. And I
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
take pride in knowing that I'm very safe around kiddos.
Yeah.
What
It's
age
just a
group,
matter of
Dr.
time.
Colt, you might mention this, but what age group do you see that you work with the most?
Gosh, really all ages.
Mm,
So the family doctor, one of my big things was in trying to think about which residency I wanted to go in. Should I be an endocrinologist? Should I be a pediatrician?
mm,
What should I do? I wanted to have no barriers. So age
mm,
wasn't a barrier to see me. Pregnancy status wasn't a barrier to see me. You didn't have to get a specialty referral to see me. I just wanted to minimize the barriers because there's always so many barriers to care in general, but
mhm,
especially for your gender or sexual health care needs. And so
mm,
um, I take care of all ages. I think very few people take care of young children.
mm,
That is something
mhm,
as a child psychologist, right? I was very well trained and familiar with. So we take care of, if they need me to be there, like sort of like a pediatrician, so a primary care provider for young folks, even if they're like 5, 6, 7, we definitely see them. We get their parents
mhm,
plugged connected. We check on them annually, see what's going on. So probably youngest patient I've ever had is 4 in terms of
mm,
gender care, but youngest patient I've ever had, we deliver babies in residency and we took care of
mhm,
them after. So very comfortable and trained to see literally all ages because I always want to be able to support also as we're talking about building family, as queer people come in with their babies in my
Mhm.
family practice,
mhm.
offer to take care of them if that's what they want to.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Dr. Colt, listen, watch what you ask for because hey, people say having a baby, they said it was fun. It would be fun, they said. It was gonna be, you're gonna get all of this joy. And I'm like, I'm running on 2 minutes of sleep right now, folks. So,
Where's the joy?
right. What joy? When does this joy happen? So, but
And so we're
it's
bringing in the children in this very queer way, right? And
mhm,
so it doesn't look the way that I imagined for myself or in my life, but I'm having to expand my possibilities, which is
mhm.
what this is all about.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you
You're
for
getting
sharing that.
yeah, you're getting a lot of love on Instagram. I just
Oh,
wanted to say that, yes, and I'm just so happy that people are resonating. The whole concept of this podcast is truly to show all the ways that trans and gender diverse children and adults are not suffering. I know people think that all they do is suffer, but they're not. A lot of them find love. They have a love story. They have ups and downs like you and I, and they're celebrating their queer joy. So please, you did mention that C has intersex, and I don't know, without going into their own personal experience, can you just
Mhm.
give us like just what does intersex mean, and also what does two spirit mean to those who may not know what they mean?
Mhm.
sure. So intersex is a word that folks may be more familiar with, kind of an old offensive term hermaphrodite. And so I think a lot more people are familiar with that word, but I always say there's no H in LGBTQIA because we don't really use homosexual or hermaphrodite anymore due to a lot of stigma, other reasons, and it's not the community's preferred language. So, folks with intersex conditions, not everyone likes that term. And so, some folks prefer a medicalized term, like having a difference or a disorder in their sexual differentiation. So this is kind of that same kind of idea. I use the word intersex or people with intersex variations because that's what I'm taught by community is what is the preferred language. But as y'all know, things are moving all the time. We just got
Yes,
lots of humility and openness going on this
yes.
journey and stop
Mhm.
limiting. Like,
Even
but
some people even have an issue with the word disorder, and I'm
Mhm.
like, yes, I mean that's also.
Yeah,
I mean, who wants somebody to say that you are a disorder?
yeah,
You know what I'm like? So we definitely are welcome. Those of us who do not have lived experience, we want to, like Dr. Colt said, we have a lot of humility. We want to learn whatever the term is.
yep,
Please let us know. We're here to learn. Nobody's here that knows everything already. But thank you so much for
Mhm.
about
and
that.
Mhm.
so what
Two Spirit is more of an
intersex
indigenous. Go ahead.
what intersex is if somebody has a difference in a part of their sex. So our sex is our chromosomes, our hormones at puberty, our internal genitalia, and our external genitalia. And so a person who is intersex has at least one difference in one of those realms. I will say, and I want to put the record straight, that there's not been a recorded history of somebody who was born with both a full vulva, vagina, and penis scrotum. That is not, because people are like, they got both parts. And I'm just like, this is what happens when we have like no education. We sound like we have no
Yes.
education
Mhm.
on these things. So if somebody has a difference in their external genitalia, it's usually a blend where it's not so clear as, is this scrotum or,
Which is it?
what's going on. And
I
chromosomes,
love the word difference, by the way. That's a good one. A difference.
yeah, variation, difference,
Difference.
like
Yeah, I love
it's
that. I love that because people understand the word difference. They might
and
not
Yeah.
get
it's
the but they get
possibly
the difference.
different and normal at the same time. So I want to make
Yes.
sure we normalize
Which is
differences.
Mhm.
queer folks are different and normal. That's what we are. We are
Yeah,
different and normal.
Yeah.
We are. We're just different from you, but we're still
Mhm.
normal. Yeah.
exactly. And then so Two Spirit, you're right, it has an indigenous connotation. It was a term that was created in the 90s at a Two Spirit conference, and I was just at a couple of those last year and this year. And there, just as there are hundreds of tribes from Turtle Island, there are hundreds of languages, uh,
Mhm.
ways of describing genders. So some tribes have more than two genders just as part of their culture, and some have two, but then they have man who is like a woman or woman who is like a man in terms of rough translations. And so um, in a way to kind of unify folks intertribally, the term Two Spirit came up because there's an idea that many cultures, not all of them, but many considered being kind of different in this way, different in either how you love, who you love, or who you are in terms of sexuality or gender. They consider that a gift. That is a gift to your community because
Mm-hmm.
you are able to see things from a different perspective. Many
Yes.
were the original couples therapists because we could understand, both perspectives in a new way. So, Two Spirit is a word that not everyone, but some folks who are of Indigenous heritage will use to describe their experience. Indigiqueer is another term that folks are using who prefer
Mhm.
that terminology
Mhm.
because not everybody has a sacred or spiritual component because two spirits, like many of them have specific ceremonies and rituals and roles within their tribe. And
Yes.
so the more that you learn, right, the more you figure out what words are best for you. And the reason that I use two spirit is because my two spirit mentor gave that label to me. And
Mm.
the way you talk about like the duality about all these things, like this is two spirit medicine.
Mm.
You either in your current life or former life, you're native. We may never figure it out, but you are two spirit. And so I was like, well, I can't argue with you. So I will just accept that label.
Mhm.
I love it. I love it. This has been so, so good. I can't believe we're at 10 minutes to the hour. I mean, at this point, I'm going to say, how can people, should I even ask, how can people find and follow you because of the sensitivity of America today? Or do you have any maybe three things parents can do, two things queer folks can do, and one thing queer kids can do?
You
Something
know,
like
the
that.
secret, and we're in a, it's like the Underground Railroad, Dr. Colt. We
Yes,
got this
yes, it
secret
is,
society.
literally.
So we will weed out the people. If they come to us, we'll screen them.
That's
Yes,
what, that's what
and Ellen has some questions, some feel good questions that she came up with for like trivia. Hey, and Ellen, you got your trivia questions?
I'll bring it up as Dr. Colt gives us some inside scoop on how we could kind of funnel this information to the right people.
All right.
Ooh. Yeah, I think the best way to contact me is through my trusted allies. So if you
Mhm.
contact Dr. Lully, contact Ellen, and they, get a good sense, then y'all know how to contact me. And so I think that's how we're going to have to do just in general, right? I think because I am a medical provider who takes care of all ages, right, I have a higher risk of safety when it comes to
Yes,
Mm, yes.
your practice. I mean, they have like bomb threats and stuff. So this is,
oh,
I want people to understand that when we're not just being incognito just to be being incognito. I mean, we're literally being stealth today because people's lives are at stake. There are some crazy folks out there who just want to blow up people and blame it on DEI. So we're not doing that. Not today.
Yeah.
That's it brings up where's my stickers? There's a phrase called protection is community love, right? And so that's what we're doing. Of course,
Hmm.
this is also like make sure you get your mpox vaccine. However, the idea
Mhm.
is still the same. We protect each other. And so that's why I appreciate having this space. So you asked me like 6 questions at once, so I'm going to try to remember what any of them were. Um, so the how to connect, so that's the one. We did that. Um, I just think in terms of things we can do. So one thing to do is I want my community to know that there are so many people who will put their lives on the line to make sure that you're okay, and we're doing that.
Mm,
We'll continue
mm,
doing that, and we will never stop fighting, period, ever.
mhm,
For your ability to just breathe and take up space
Mm.
and be
mhm,
100% you and be well. And our best resistance is to take care of ourselves. So think about the things you're putting in your body. How are they serving you?
mhm,
Many people who are using plant medicines in a way that they are not designed to use. They are not
Mm.
to numb you every day. They are for ceremony. And so I have no judgment with using plants as medicine. However, the ways that we are using these things, how is that serving you? And maybe it's keeping you alive for right now, and that's good enough.
mhm,
So I just want folks to think about your wellness and you loving you and taking care of you, right? That is huge. And that is all that
mhm,
I ask my people to do is take good care of their bodies and spirits, limit the amount of poison you're drinking through like actual things that are harmful, but then like things that are harmful in terms of words, right? And in terms
mhm,
of people around you, limit the poison
mhm,
that you have to intake. In terms of things something that would really help me is capital, funding, fundraising to help move things forward. I can't be very specific, but if folks are interested in helping me to make sure that we're all cared for in ways that are safe for the future, then I would really like some support there. Another concrete way to do that, and I put it in the chat, is I worked with Dr. Zoe Jimenez, who is also a psychologist, and we have created a 12-hour continuing education unit, CME, CNE, CEU course. So if there's anybody who's working with transgender adults, many adults need letters in order to access life-saving surgeries. And so there's not a lot of education on how do you do this assessment and support someone and write a letter for this process. And so gender affirming supportive surgical evaluation tool, I put out the first version about 10 years ago and have been working hard with Dr. Zoe. This is the second version that gets to all the updates with the newest guidelines for care. And so flooding that in any way you can, purchasing that course will definitely help me stay up and running and housed, even if I have to work, if I get fired from my job and don't have a steady income. So that would be really helpful.
Yeah, I've gone ahead and copied that. I'm actually going to post it on my Instagram, on my LinkedIn article. When I do the summary of this interview, I'll add that to the LinkedIn article. We had just a couple of people sharing love. Nobody really asked any questions. Nobody had any comments, so that's fine. The show is called Moms, the #4 Trans Kids podcast. We are excited to be back. Ellen, is this our first one this year? I was thinking.
Oh my gosh, I think it is.
I think it is.
Yeah,
I think
we have been running
So
around
we had the California. Because I was in Houston, and then we had the California fires. Then I was in Las Vegas, and then this is it. So
yeah, our last one was in Mexico.
In Mexico, yes, which is before the Christmas. So yeah. So thank you all so much for always listening to us, always being with us. Ellen, I don't know if you know this, but I actually press publish today on my book.
Yay!
I have been like in the deepest cell of imposter syndrome. Like this book has been ready since Thursday, and I'm just like, should I? I know it's going to be banned automatically, which is good, but I just like,
it's always the good stuff that's banned.
Yes, it's the good stuff that's banned. So, if you are a parent of a trans kid, black, white, brown, or yellow, honestly, the book is for you. Even though it says about your black transgender child, I had to, because my kid is a black trans kid, I have to use the frame of reference that I have lived experience with. But truly, there may be a couple of things in there that are specific about blackness, which is intersectionality. But even with that, white, brown, two-spirit, any colored child who is gender diverse already lives in the village of intersectionality. There's just some things like immigration for me as a black woman and racism for my black kid. But otherwise, it talks about relationships. It talks about how to handle homophobia, which, by the way, I learned a new word while I was in Las Vegas. So have y'all heard homomisia before, or transmisia?
Transmisia?
MISIA, homomisia and transmisia. So I actually had to go back and edit the book and added that quick sentence. So Hope Giselle, which some people know Hope Giselle, she's like a major trans influencer out there, she didn't come up with it, but she taught us the word at the Black Institute. So homomisia and transmisia or queermisia basically means hatred for people who are trans, whereas homophobia technically means fear of people who are trans. So she says, some people, they say, well, I'm not homophobic, I'm not afraid of you. She said, well, I know, but you hate me. So homomisia, transmisia, queermisia is irrational hatred of someone or something who hasn't done anything to you, and you just hate them. So that's the misia, MISIA. It's in the Urban Dictionary, so go check it out. But that's a word that I learned this past weekend. I was like, okay, I'm going to put it in my book so my book can be updated. But I think we have time for one question for our guest today. Just one question. Go.
Here we go. I'm playing a little background music.
I hear it.
All right. Okay, we got one question for you, and it is that too loud? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear it.
Okay. All right, good old doctor. This one is for you. What does the P stand for? in trans activist Marsha P. Johnson's name? Is it A, perseverance, B, powerful, C, pay it no mind, or D, pay it forward?
Marsha, pay it no mind. We gotta know our stories. We gotta know your stories.
And you win an autographed copy of the brand new book.
I'm
Yay!
so excited about your book. Our elder auntie Monica Roberts, who we lost during COVID,
Yes.
she
Yeah.
said if we can take care of and raise a Black trans disabled woman, a girl, then we can take care of everyone.
The
And so
world.
having that book, I think our auntie is looking down on us and smiling as the wonderful transcestor she is.
Yes. Monica Roberts, rest in peace. And really all the people who have passed away. And I was raised Catholic, so I guess all the souls of all the faithful who have passed away recently in the California fires, in the plane crashes, in the bombs, in all the wars across the world. If you're a family member who's been hit by this, we want you to know that we see you, we love you, and we're holding space for you as we come to the end of the show. The
Yeah.
show is called Moms, the number 4 trans kids. We never know what this show is going to take us. This was an amazing way to end a very
Yes.
heavy episode, I must say.
Yes. And of course, you had to know that, Dr. Cole. If you didn't know that, I'd be like, I'm gonna have to question. I'd have to question your trans.
Everything. Everything. Yes, everything. And do take a link to the Surviving Transphobia book that is written by a lot of elders on how to survive this transmissia and things that we're dealing with right now. Cecilia Gentili, one of our elders who we lost last year, she wrote a chapter as one of the last things she did. And so I think that's a great book for parents to read as well and give to their children of how do we survive this? What are those resilient skills that we didn't get passed on as children because our parents didn't have that experience?
Yeah. So the book is called Surviving Transphobia. And with that, we have come to the end of the show. My book will be available on Amazon in about 72 hours. I'm told, y'all, I'm excited. I can't even breathe. Ellen, we'll see you next week if we have a guest. Dr. Colt, this was beyond amazing. I knew it was
Yes.
good. I hope it was everything for you. I hope it filled your cup like you filled our cup today. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. I'll see all of y'all next week. Remember to take care of yourself and each other. That's not an original, but hey, it's definitely important right now. I'll see you all next week. Peace, love, and soul. Bye.
Bye.
Yay. That was